All right, so the same rules as last week. Anyone who has a question, just push the talk button quickly. I'll take a look at your blue lights, and we'll move forward. And for some of the new people that weren't here last week, Oscar and Einar are the developers of the HMS Marulken game, and I'll let them give their introduction.
Yeah, so welcome to the Q&A session again. We are happy to answer all your questions if you have any, or just discuss the game in general. So yeah, hello everyone, and thank you for coming.
All right, so Jaden apparently has a light on. Got a question?
Okay, so I wanted to ask quickly. I know, like, thinking about sort of luxuries within games such as customization, that sort of thing, is quite a way off, considering that you currently we're in alpha. But did you guys, assuming the funding gets to a certain degree that the development can continue, would things like customizing submarines be a thing in future updates?
What do you mean by customizing?
Like changing loadouts and configuring, like for example, some subs could be equipped with a snorkel, others might not be, and have different sorts of deck guns and anti-aircraft weaponry attached to them, and changing different sorts of torpedoes. Like some had towards the end of the war, some had acoustic homing devices. Some were just sort of dumbfire. Some had magnetic detonation. These sorts of things.
Well, our original plan was to have, like in the campaign mode, that we would have that the technology would evolve as the campaign kept going. So that you would have like more simple stuff at the beginning of the war, and then at the end of the war, you'd like after like 42, 43, you'd have a snorkel and so on. But for the multiplayer, it would be very interesting to have either different loadouts or different like tech levels. So you have like a technology level where you can have a snorkel and where you can't have a snorkel.
Okay.
Okay, so does anybody have a follow-up question? And I'll ask a question if no one does. So in the sonar room, if we turn the gain up to a 3, we get a very loud volume. It appears that we might never need to go louder than 3 when we're listening for the current map is somewhat of a enclosed area. There's land out to the east, there's land to the west. So in different missions, do you foresee larger open water needing to use a louder gain setting, or is it overpowered? And the follow-up question to that is, when we are moving at 30 knots, which is not a realistic speed for World War II, will the destroyers be able to hear us at a further distance? Will you make some sort of a compensation?
Well, the reason the gain goes to 100 is just that I chose an arbitrary number, 100. Right now the hydrophone is also the what's it called, attenuation. I mean, the volume. So the volume of the sound decreases if something is far away, right? But normally it decreases quadratically. But right now it decreases linearly, so that's why you can hear so good, or hear stuff so far away. So essentially, we're not done with the hydrophone yet. It's still under construction, so that's why the values of the gain are so strange. And for the second question, yes, definitely, we definitely want to have hydrophones on the enemy ships so that they can hear you if you are traveling too fast or too near. So you have to balance that. And you could use your own hydrophone to listen to, like to get a sense of how loud your own submarine is.
Okay, so just to clarify a little bit, will you be making historical adjustments? Because if our sub is going 30 knots, will their historical range to listen be increased, or will you decrease it to keep the AI at roughly the same response and detection levels? Does that make sense?
Yes. of course, the game will be balanced for like gameplay is still the most important thing. So the reason the sub is moving super fast is because it would be really boring to travel at realistic speeds, and so we'll have to balance the game accordingly.
Okay, very good. Jaden's got another
I have a question.
Admiral will be next.
Okay, so one thing I have noticed about the game so far in its current state is the render distance for DDs is astonishingly low compared to what you can see in reflections of the water. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this when using the periscope, but you can see DDs further by their reflection on the water than you can the actual DDs themselves. I have noticed that the maximum render distance for any sort of object that's land and other ships is 5,000 meters. This is obviously going to increase as development goes on, I hope, right?
Well, again, that's an arbitrary value that we chose because like we haven't really decided on what the maximum render distance will be, but we found that that value worked, so we chose that. And the reason you can see the reflection before you can see the object that's because how the reflection works in the water that we have. So because the reflection is obviously always going to be in front of the object, so that's why the object gets culled but not the reflection. But we will try to increase the render distance because we realize that this is a problem.
Yeah. At first, when I first started playing this game, I noticed that I could see the reflections, and I thought that they weren't actually destroyers. And I went to surface depth, and then I had a destroyer crawling up my arse at about 4,000 meters shooting at us. And I went, where did this guy come from? I didn't realize the render distance was so low. And you don't think it's low, 5,000 meters. You don't think that's very low. But it is when you can see, upwards of 10 kilometers. Depending if you're on surface depth using the periscope, your view is quite high above the water, and at that sort of distance above the water, you can actually see probably the whole map if you had a keen eye and a good resolution. So one of the things that people might say is that if you crank the view distance up too high, then lower end PCs might not be able to cope with all the stuff going on. We're going to get to the point where explosions are going to be happening, and you have to render fire and smoke and all that sort of thing. But customizable view distance should be something that could be considered as well.
Okay, Admiral, you are now ready to go. Your question, Admiral, are you still there? Okay, so I'll do a follow-up question while we're waiting. Do the destroyers currently detect your radar if your sub is out of visual range, but running the radar?
No, they don't currently. I have been definitely thinking about and actually working on a radar detection system where both the enemy and your own sub would have radar detection. So I want, in the future in the timeline of the campaign, I want the enemies to also get radar systems and the planes and so on, 43 and after that, so that you'd have a radar warner, so you'd see when someone sees you on the radar. But I also want the enemy to have it. It's just not developed yet.
Very good. Admiral, you had a question? Are you there yet? So I just got a PM from Redwater Insomnia. You have a question?
Oh, I have a bunch of them. The first one that came to me would be, what is the size of the map in Unity units?
The size of the map in Unity, the scale is just 1-to-1. So 1 Unity unit is 1 meter currently. So the size of the map in Unity would be 45,000 units wide.
Okay, 45 kilometers. You guys are not scaling down 3D models to fit into the game easier?
No, because that doesn't really work.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
So my follow-up question with that is, which Oscar or Einar, which one does the most 3D modeling?
Well, I do pretty much all the 3D modeling.
And which one was the main programmer?
That would be me.
Okay, I'm trying to get you guys straight in my head. Good job. So, yeah, it does. Do we have anyone? Gator's got a blue light. Go ahead, ask your question.
Just out of curiosity, we're not going to be facing too many Fantastique class destroyers, right? These are the ones that do 45 knots. They can outrun their own torpedoes.
Well, we haven't really decided on exactly which units are going to be in the game, but it's not impossible. I mean, it will be.
The Germans did capture 3 of them. It's the only reason why I asked.
Well, as I said, we haven't really decided which units are going to be in the game, but I'm not ruling anything out at this point.
Okay.
All right.
Uncle Neil's got a blue light. Go ahead.
Yeah, tell me about your character, your avatar modeling. I saw some pictures of it in Facebook. How's that going?
Well, it's going quite well, I'd say. I have modeled one character as of now, and it is also rigged and skinned, and we have most of the animations needed, so it's pretty much all done on that front. We got the model and the animations.
Okay.
And hopefully it will be included in the game or implemented in the game very soon.
Awesome. So does Mild Menacing has a question? Go ahead.
Will there ever be a voice comms or like a VoIP so that you can talk to each other while in game in the sub later on in development?
Yes, I've the thing I'm doing now is I'm rewriting the code, the netcode, so that the game will work on Steam, because we've been greenlit, and we have access to the Steam page now, so we can actually get like customize stuff. We can set achievements and so on. So I'm working on making the game talk to the Steam servers, and that's what I'm doing now. And when that works, implementing voice over IP will be fairly trivial, because they have a really good library for that. So yeah, I have been thinking about that recently, and it probably won't be very difficult.
Awesome. So if anyone else has a question, again, I'll interrupt myself, but I have a question. So currently, if we start a game and we have 2 people creating 2 different submarines, after we start the game, anybody else that wants to join the game is capable of jumping into one of those 2 submarines. However, a player who comes in late does not have the ability to create the 3rd submarine. So once the game starts, you can only join. You can't create more submarines. Is that going to change?
Yes, we intend on changing that for the campaign mode, but obviously not for the player versus player mode that's coming up, because it would be strange if new players could join like in the middle of a match. Or actually, that could work depending on what kind of scenario we're talking about. But if we're talking about like a fair game where we're like 2 versus 2 or something, and then a 3rd submarine joins, that would be very unfair. But yes, for the campaign, there's no reason for it to work that way.
So you bring up a really good point on player versus player, because I did not consider that. However, if 3 players are going to fight against 3 players, they all agree ahead of time that if one of them disconnects, and as long as they have a password on their little battle, that one player who disconnected should be allowed to get back in. Do you think?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Okay, good. So on a scale of 1 to 10, which part of your game as it currently stands was more difficult than the others, and which parts were more, I guess, more natural for you guys to churn out quickly?
Well, first of all, the netcode is fairly complicated, because it's a fairly complicated game. I mean, as far as the network components go, but the hardest thing to develop has definitely been the interaction model and the systems. We've been redoing and remodeling basically every part of the submarine, everything, all the things, like how should the hydrophone work, how should the radar work, how should controlling the submarine work in various aspects. We've been redesigning the torpedo data computer and basically everything, all the systems, because so that's basically been the most time-consuming part, figuring out how everything is going to work.
That's that's true as well with the 3D modeling. Like doing the models, the final models doesn't take as much time as deciding how they're supposed to work. So yeah, that's completely true.
Okay, great. And Mildly Menacing has another question.
About the campaign co-op mode, will you, and this might seem as a pretty stupid question, but further along development, will you add more like these missions where you can be a wolf pack and hunt down very large convoys?
Yeah, that would be very interesting. But we can't really the idea is for the campaign to be playable with only one submarine. So in that case, we would have to have computer controlled. The rest of the Wolfpack would have to be computer controlled. But it would be also very interesting to add missions made for more than one submarine. But the campaign is going to be designed around one sub.
All right, so we have kind of an open question. Jaden, you're up next.
Yeah. One thought, that sort of lingers in my mind, and it's not really an uplifting thought, is if the Kickstarter campaign fails, which I really hope it doesn't, because this is one of the more interesting concepts that I've seen to go through Steam Greenlight in a long while. Would you guys consider putting it on early access on Steam?
Yes, we would, depending on the situation. I mean, so the plan is that if the Kickstarter fails, we'll try to go to publishers, like game publishers, and ask if they could publish the game and pay for the development. And if that doesn't work, we'll have to work for someone else for a bit, and depending on how much time we have to make the game, we might put it on early access. But if we do, we don't want it to be in early access for too long. I mean, we want to add updates to it probably weekly if we're going to do an early access, because we don't want it to go like stale in early access. We don't want to end up in early access purgatory where we never release any updates. It's just an unfinished product that never gets finished.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of early access games end up like that. One thing to look at would be Space Engineers. They release an update every Thursday, and that so far has worked. They do sort of small little updates, not too big, but ones that are enough to make sure that people are convinced that the devs aren't going to give up, because they've kept their rap sheet is they release an update every Thursday consistently, as well as a dev diary, which is good to watch as well. So that's something you guys could look into.
Yeah, it's something like that we would of course prefer to do, but then again, it's always a matter of time, of course. But yes, if put it on early access, that's definitely something we would look into and try to accomplish as well.
Okay, I think Admiral has come back with another question. Are you back, Admiral?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
What is this game supposed to be? I mean, I like the multiplayer aspect. Is it like I mean, 30 knots. Should it be, is it going to be a fast-paced one, or?
Well, it's not a pure simulator, and it's not a pure like action game. It's somewhere in between those two, because if we would make a realistic game, it would be extremely slow, and I think to most people it would be boring. But we still want like a cerebral experience. We want to make something that requires the players to think and make tactical decisions. So we don't want a game that's too fast-paced, but we also don't want a game that's so slow that the players would get bored. So somewhere in between is the idea.
All right.
Okay, I think I saw Mildly or Insomnia or Tai Hanami blink the blue light again, and also Uncle Neil. If anybody, Insomnia, you want to go first, then Uncle Neil.
So what is the mood like between the team? I know you guys have got a lot of publicity over the last couple weeks. I go through periods where I will work for a bit and then kind of lean off the project for a bit, and then someone will say something great, some nice advice, and I'll go hard on. You guys have got TeamSpeak sessions going on. You've got a sub forum. How's the mood in the team with the sudden publicity gain in that regard?
Well, I suppose for us it's a bit like, yeah, we worked a lot. We work all the time, but then we have to deal with the publicity and deal with all the questions and stuff, and then we do that. And now we are a bit back to just working with the game again. So we're constantly working at least. So yeah, that's something.
That's good to hear.
Is there anybody here that has not actually attempted to play the game? Just hit your blue light. If you're just a new visitor and learning about this game for the first time, just kind of curious. And if you have not listened to last week's 2-hour TeamSpeak session with Oscar and Einar, that is available on the SUBSIM forum. So when tonight is finished, you can also go back and listen to last week and get all those answers for all those other questions. Uncle Neil, you're up next.
Disconnected from your channel.
Yeah, we're talking about changing the gameplay so it's somewhere between a simulation and then somewhere between a game that's manageable for 4 people who have limited time to play together.
Is recording.
How difficult is it to adjust those things in the code or the program? Is it just changing a few settings here and there?
No, that's actually one of the more difficult parts of designing the game, to make it both to balance, make a balance between something that's interesting and because the realistic stuff I find interesting, to make a balance between something that's interesting and also not too slow. That has been one of the most difficult things with designing these systems, for them to work well together and so on. So that is pretty difficult, but not from a programming point of view, more from a game design point of view.
Right. So basically, changing the destroyer speed or the sub speed or how fast the batteries go down at a given speed. Making those changes is not that difficult. It's just balancing it by game design is difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what we're all here for. We're helping test the game, and many of us have submitted bug reports. Mildly Menacing, you're up next.
Okay, last question before I hit the sack. If you go into early access, which I think you're going to, will the game be free or must you pay for it? And if so, how much will it cost?
We haven't really considered the cost yet, but if we go into early access, it would definitely be a paid game, because otherwise we wouldn't afford to work on it. I mean, that's the only reason, really. We're not super interested in money. We're mostly interested in making the game. But if we don't get paid, won't have time to make the game. So that's why we'd have to charge money for it.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
So there is a follow-up question about the money, and and Uncle Neil and I had talked about it. If the game doesn't make it on the Kickstarter, do you already have potentially interested publishers, or will you be starting from scratch in a few weeks, just searching out your first publisher? Have you been approached, or have you had any discussions? Is there any positive news there?
Well, I'd say that we have some contacts, and we have some information about a certain publisher. We have not been in contact with them personally yet, but as I said, we have might have some contacts, and we have some stuff. So yeah, hopefully we won't have to start out at zero, at least.
Awesome. So if anyone wants to send you an email and they have some extra money sitting around, you're open to receiving suggestions on, investors?
Basically, yes.
All right, so we can get into the particulars of that later once I get wealthy. I'm not wealthy right now, but if I had money, I would certainly help you guys. You've done an amazing job on the game this far, and so many things are just working in a way that has never been seen or done before in another submarine game. So just down to the littlest things that really are outstanding. If I turn a knob on my submarine, the other guy can see it turn. That's sending a lot of signals from the host to the client. And then when you start considering that there's other submarines next to you and they have guys turning the dials in their sub, it becomes mind-boggling on the network code what must be going on there, trying to keep track of everybody.
Thank you so much, Maxim. Thank you.
All right, great. Crazy Gerbils got a question?
Right, this has come up a couple times, I think. Are you going to have a dedicated server option to run separate from running the game client? Because at least once I've been hosting and then my game has crashed and thus everybody has been disconnected.
Yeah, sure. We won't have it up. I mean, I'm going to make the like host only option first. I really want, because as I said, I'm working on the netcode right now, and I want it to get it up on Steam as soon as possible. So I won't be making the dedicated server option first, but I will add it later.
So I understand that the Steam provides a matchmaking, networking, and potentially a server option. Is that right, or are you talking about a standalone server eventually?
I'm like Steam doesn't give you dedicated servers. It only gives you access to the relay servers. So a player would have to host the game but you could still it's still useful to have a dedicated server option.
So, for example, if I have two computers in my house, one is very powerful, I tell it to call up to Steam, announce that there's a game running, that computer is the server. My other computer, I just log in and play, and I connect to other players, and they all connect to my server just like I do. So that's what are you saying, that the standalone server will still be announced or visible on Steam?
Yes, you can announce it. You can announce it as a public server or as a server with some restrictions as to who can join. So you can actually customize that quite a bit.
Very cool. So I think I saw somebody else push a light earlier. If you have a question, go ahead. Admiral, you're up now.
Yeah, while playing the game, you're playing with, 4 people, so 3 other people. How are you going to communicate? I mean, is there a way to communicate in-game other than like on TeamSpeak?
The idea is to have both an in-game chat and also like a push-to-talk system.
Okay, cool.
So a follow-up question to that would be, if I'm in one submarine with 3 guys and I want to talk, only the guys in that submarine can hear me. And if I want to use the chat window and some of the guys in my sub, for example, I don't know, for whatever reason they have their voice turned off, the option in the game is turned off, they'll still see me chatting text within my own sub. However, the radio room allows you to set a channel for sub-to-sub communications. Will there be any enhancements on either of those things other than what I just talked about?
No, the idea is that you can only talk to the people on your sub. I don't want a global chat or something like that. Is that what you meant?
Well, it could be useful that if you are the host of the game and you want to send out a global chat message saying, "Hey, everybody, I apologize. We have an error. We're going to restart the server." So, for examples like that.
Well, that might be a good idea, actually. There are possibilities that something like that could work out, yes.
Okay, just wanted to see how involved the different levels are. There's a global, there's an administrator kind of level. There's no need or no reason realistically for subs to be able to talk to each other if one or the other or both are underwater. Okay, I think I saw another light come on, and go ahead and do it again. I'm just paying attention. There it is, Jaden. Go ahead with your question, Jaden.
I wanted to build on that sort of thing about communication. The current state of the Enigma machine is very, very, very basic. It's, you turn 3 dials and you press buttons and the different lights come up and all that sort of thing. Sorry, take a support there. In the future, because I'm a very big fan of the Enigma itself, do you guys plan on having it so you can open up the top, change the different wheels inside of there and that sort of thing, and have it actually function as almost like the real deal?
That would be really cool.
Well, the thing is, I know how to make an Enigma machine programmatically. It's not very difficult at all, actually. The reason we chose to make a simplified one was for the player versus player aspect of the game, and also because it's easier to use this way. But consider the player versus player situation where you have, like, you see someone sending a message and you can actually decode it. Well, if you have a real Enigma machine or a realistic one, like that functions like a real one, then you can't decode it, and it's basically impossible to decode unless you have a very powerful computer.
Well, I mean, there's that, but if you were in the game and you were trying to intercept radio transmissions, even in the current state, all we have to do is set our Enigma machine to some random number, and the chances of any sub, guessing that number, because, I mean, I think that, what do they go up to, 999? So, I mean, 999 factorial is a huge number, so the chances of someone, going through each number and trying to guess is absolutely outrageous,
It's not 999 factorial, it's just 999, so it's 1,000 combinations. It's not that much. And also, you don't have to guess the number. You can just use frequency analysis to get the key. You don't have to use the machine at all. You can do it by hand.
No, I'm talking about if someone used the Enigma to encode a message, you'd need you'd need the starting rotor position, the 3 wheels to decode that. There is a reason why people couldn't decode it back in World War II by hand. It was one of those things. But even if you were in the know, you would still need the rotor starting positions. Otherwise, it would just come out as gibberish.
Yeah, I know. In a real Enigma system, that would be the case. But in this system that we're currently using, then because the rotors don't actually rotate in this system, it's just a substitution cipher. So right now you can decode it by hand, and that was by design.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there an option in the future where that's going to be more realistic, or is that going to stay sort of like an arcadey, how it is now?
Well, we haven't really decided on that, actually. So,
well, it would be really cool to have a more realistic Enigma. Yes, but as Oscar said, we haven't really thought about it that much yet, actually.
Okay, so I've seen a couple lights here. We have Admiral, and then after that will be Insomnia. Go ahead, Admiral.
I don't think a game should be too complicated. Otherwise, only a very few will play it. So I think simplifying it is actually a good idea.
There's always the option of an easy and a medium and a hard setting. So those players who want to host a game at hard, they can do so. The easy and the medium, can be an option. So, yeah. Insomnia, do you still have a question?
No, I was also going to add that balancing realism is one of the hardest points about a historical game. I mean, and not only that, trying to make it easy, but trying to go to the simulator fans, but just coding it in general. It's not the easiest thing in the world to just create an easy, hardcore settings, you know? So I think the simple option is definitely the best bet for the foreseeable future.
Uncle Neil, you got a question?
I do. One of my favorite topics when it comes to multiplayer games is, will these games be cheat-proof, tamper-proof? Basically, when I get together with 3 or 4 other guys and we face off against another submarine, will the game have integrity that'll keep people from going in and changing files, or will they have, an unfair advantage by changing stuff?
Well, we'll definitely try to do it, but it's really difficult to make it impossible to cheat. But right now, like the server, we're basing it on a server, like the server has all the authority in the game, so you can't if you're a client, you can't destroy the other submarine or give yourself more torpedoes or do something like that, because it's the server that decides whether or not a torpedo was fired and so on. So it's an authoritative server model. So it's difficult, but probably not impossible to cheat. It's really difficult to make something that's that has everything covered.
I understand. What about if is there a way you can have it in place that if anybody's got some advantages or changes or they tamper, that everybody else can be made aware of it?
Well, there is like if you were to cheat, you would have to do it either by you could get information from the server that you shouldn't have. That would be a thing that you could do potentially, because the client still has to know where the other submarines are, because you'd have to be able to listen to them in the hydrophone and so on. So I still have to send out that information to the clients, and those kind of things you could cheat with. And that's really really difficult to make a foolproof solution for.
Okay, Jaden's up next.
I wanted to sort of add on to that the cheating discussion here. If you guys have access to the Steam files, do you guys plan on implementing VAC?
Yeah, we can do that definitely. But still, I mean, even if like VAC, for those who don't know, is Valve's anti-cheat code, and that helps with stuff like you can't do insertions into you can't insert code into the program as it's running, or it will try to detect stuff like that. But it's still possible to have something that monitors the network link and tries to decode the messages. And I mean, it's really difficult, I'd say, to make something that's impossible to cheat with. But we'll definitely try our best to make it really really hard to cheat.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I can see it. Sorry, I can see it being near impossible to cheat if you go the way that you said you were going, and have it so the server has all the permissions and all the authority, and then you implement back, and then it becomes impossible to then inject code into the exe. You then cannot change anything client side because everything is server side based. The only thing that would then be available to people would be things like mat hacks, material hacks, where they change client files to make things show up like bright orange under the water, that sort of thing. That can be countered with checksums and SV Pure settings on Valve games where you can only use the original files. That can be countered with that. The only thing then available would be things like what they called other sort of not aimbots, but where it sort of draws a box around detected entities and that sort of thing. But again, that is something that VAC, I think, is quite good at detecting. So it can be made extraordinarily hard or impossible using these sorts of methods.
So a follow-up question for the Valve anti-cheat code. I think I've seen games in the past where you could either choose to turn on the VAC or not, and then some players would only play on servers that announced that they were not using it, and other players only wanted to play. Will that be an option?
I haven't really thought about that.
Okay, great. So the next question is probably on everyone's mind. It's been a week since we've had the last developer chat, and a lot of times, you have a life that you have to keep going after. You have to program the game at the same time. So, would you like to talk about any advances that you've made in the last week, and then maybe extrapolate that out and talk about what might happen in the next couple of weeks? What parts of the game you did work on and completed, or expect to complete soon? What is the the nearer schedule looking like?
Okay, so basically, as I said, we've been working on the netcode. I've been re-implementing basically all of the netcode from scratch, because it turns out the libraries that we used weren't compatible with the Steam servers at all, which is a shame. But so that's the thing. I've also been listening to much of the critique and all the bug reports and so on that we have been getting. So I've changed I've added the like azimuth, like the degree thing in the periscope, so you can see where you're facing. I've changed the torpedo data computer so that it uses relative angles, and I've like fixed like small bugs and so on. I've also been looking a bit at the anti-aircraft gun, so that's almost finished as well, and it's looking fairly good at the moment with the netcode. I can't make any promises, but we might have something up and running on Steam like this weekend, maybe.
Yes,
Wow.
And while Oscar has been working on that, I've been focusing on the player avatars, modeling the character, rigging, skinning, and getting animations, PR, and stuff like that.
That's very, very cool. So I was watching again for the third time one of your videos where there were four of you, Oscar, Einar, and another guy and a girl, that were operating the submarine. And I was thinking to myself, that was a very early version of the game. The graphics were different. So are those team members? Are they assisting you in building your company, or were they just friends?
They were just friends helping out with the video, pretty much. Friends from school.
Okay,
Did
cool.
Did anybody get a promotion?
Well, I guess they are still welcome to join the sub whenever they want. We are very busy at the moment. We have other jobs and stuff. Back.
Right. So a follow-up question to that: when you see yourself in 30 years from now, and you look back and you say, "Hey, I was working on this submarine game in 2016, and this is how we produced a little video every couple of weeks or months on the things that we've accomplished." Do you plan on, say, perhaps having a camera in your studio, showing the sort of the record, the historical record of the development of your game? Do you plan on doing anything like that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, yes, we do. We have some stuff like that as well, but we I don't know. We don't have much time for that. We just kind of work with the game all the time. But yeah, it's a good thought though. We do some documentary stuff sometimes as well.
Right. Everything you do today on YouTube will be there 30 years from now, so you can look back on it. So try to get as much on there. All right, we've got three lights coming up. So Admiral was first, and then somebody down near the bottom of the list. We'll go with Admiral first. Admiral has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, about that cheat thing. I mean, really, if someone has to cheat to play a game, like this. That's sad, really. I mean, it's about the challenge, so you can usually spot the cheaters. I've
You're
seen
right.
that in other games.
That's
Yeah,
true.
you're right. I mean, basically, this game's gonna most likely be cooperative to where two subs will be playing in cooperation with each other, attacking ships. But there'll be a lot of players that probably want to just go square off sub versus sub just for the fun of it, and it's always more fun to know that the other guy's beating you because he's better than you, not because he's found some way to change something.
Right. And if you, of course, set up your game with a password and you play with people that you've allowed in and they behaved the first time well, then you can always give them the password for the next time. So we just tap your lights again if I missed anybody that has a question, and we're looking to see if there's a follow-up there. Hibble J Bob, go ahead.
Hello, sorry, it's not a follow-up, but it was just in terms of helping you guys, the developers, with kind of bug reports and things. I know I've passed a couple of bug reports by private message, but do you have like a formal way of passing them along?
Well, I don't know, Einar, have you set up any forums?
Well, not yet, unfortunately. I was kind of supposed to do it. I should have done it already, but I haven't. So I will get right on that. But the plan is to have a forum. Neil is laughing at me right now. Yeah, the plan is to have a forum, a subsection of the Marulken forum on SUBSIM, where we can discuss all the bugs and report them, where we also can have a good overview of the known bugs, so we don't get the same reports over and over. But yes, I will get on that as soon as.
So I've done my best to keep everyone who was interested in being an alpha tester sending their bug reports on an email list that I've been maintaining. If you'd like to be added to that list, talk to me afterwards. And then I've collated all my emails with all the other bug reports I've put together and sent them to the standard HMS Marulken email address. And then when I get responses back from the developers, I send that back out to everyone who submitted bug reports so that they can follow the conversation. That is what we've done for a few weeks, which sort of postponed and put off the extra work required by Einar, I pronounced it wrong, to get that forum going. But if you're going to have that forum going, we'll certainly start posting bug reports there. It'll be a great and welcome addition. Still looking for blue lights if anyone else has a question. Take it in any direction. Okay.
I would like to add just one thing, that we are planning on using Steam bug report features as well. So that's also one of the reasons that we have kind of prolonged this, because that's the plan is to mostly use bug report features. Yes.
Oh, very good, very good. So we've noticed that your game was greenlit. And I was not part of the process of saying, hey, I found this game, I want to bump it up or whatever. So now that it's greenlit, is there anything else we can do to add to the popularity of your game?
Well, I suppose, as far as Steam goes, we are pretty much set since it's greenlit and all of them we have been accepted and so on. So we will have the game on Steam, but of course, all publicity good. So yeah, for the green light, and also of course, if the game will be on Steam early access, it will of course be good if people know it's there. So know people who might like it or anything. Everything is good concerning PR.
Okay, awesome. And again, Jaden has a question.
Yeah, one thing that I'm quite excited for is sub on destroyer combat, where players man both sorts of ships. I couldn't find the word there. Do you guys have sort of an ETA on when you guys are going to start thinking about making that, if at all?
Well, basically, it takes a lot of time to make something like that. We're a two-man team, so at the moment we don't actually have a plan to do that unless we get a lot of money, basically. So even if we did succeed with the Kickstarter, and even if we do, then we still won't have a budget to make an entirely new type of vessel. But maybe in the future, who knows?
Yes, but although this is something we have been talking about for maybe, almost a year, I guess. So it's, of course, it has crossed our minds to have something like that.
Yeah, we've been thinking about playable airplanes and so on. That it would be awesome to have to be able to have radio communication between an airplane and a submarine. It would be really interesting, I think. But as I said, it's time consuming to make.
Hey, don't get too ahead of yourselves there. You're doing good. Don't think too much. Smooth it out first.
So I just got a question or a comment on the PM and from Insomnia, and he was saying that I thought you had a really large team. So would you guys like to talk about your history with your college project briefly?
Well, sure. Well, I guess started making the game as a final project college, and it was it was based on this idea with limited information, and we based it a lot on the game Artemis Space Bridge later, and it was a very simple idea. We plan on using just like sliders to controls, maybe a net.
Anna, you're breaking up.
Oh, sorry.
Can't hear you, but I can continue.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah. So we started out making the game. We had a team of 4 people originally, and as Einar said, we tried to make a game with limited information. That was the sort of original idea, and we looked a lot at Artemis Space Bridge Simulator, and and then we finished. We did like hand in the project for our assignment, and that's the old version that you can still see like on our website. No, sorry, on our YouTube channel. And then we just decided to keep working on it. And the other two team members quit because they thought it was like they thought we were finished, but I didn't think that. So
yes, so to be clear, yes, but the game as of now, we have remade the game from scratch. So pretty much, nothing that's in the game now was in the version of the game.
And so the both of you are recent college graduates. What year, I guess you did graduate? Was that 2014 or 15?
Well, actually, it's not college, it's university, and we haven't actually graduated yet. We've been putting off making it a final thesis forever. We actually handed it in today, so we haven't actually. We haven't actually graduated.
Well, good luck on that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great. Yeah, several people just PM'd me and said good luck with that. So it's approximately 3:30 in Sweden right now. The developers are staying up very late to talk to us, and we want to just let everybody know that our plan tonight was to try and wrap it up here in 1 hour, which is another 5 minutes. So if you do have remaining questions, think of them, quickly. Get ready. We'll, if you key up your light, we'll give you a chance to get in any questions before we ask the developers if it's time to wrap up. Okay, Crazy Gerbil.
So you mentioned that you would have the Steam stuff done potentially by this weekend. Would you be then, I guess, releasing it by next week or something?
Well, we plan on releasing it on Steam as soon as we can, but it will be a demo release. But yeah, as soon as we can, we will try to release it on Steam, because that will fix a lot of the problems people have connecting and so on.
We are also hoping that the Steam.
You just cut out.
Well, we are also hoping that the Steam our Kickstarter campaign, since the game will be more accessible for people.
Okay, Einar, you might not be using your push to talk key if your voice activation sensitivity is breaking up. Yeah, so you're going to put a demo out there, and that means it'll be free, and people on Steam, lots of publicity. I mean, they should advertise it. Has Steam given you any indications that they'll put your demo up as a sort of a front page advertisement?
No, they haven't. But that's. I mean, Steam is. They're very secretive, like Valve, on how they sort of run their business. So it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, I understand. So last week you mentioned that there was some bureaucratic red tape with working with Steam. So that has been resolved, and you're making good progress. And from the sounds of what I've heard tonight, things are going forward.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, basically, it was. We've moved past most of the red tape. We'll see. I mean, they still have to. We're still going to upload something that they have to look at, and they have to like. We still have one more thing that has to pass. So they have to look at the actual game when we upload it. But that will probably take like a day or two. So it probably won't take too long.
Okay, Uncle Neil, you're up next.
No, I'm working. Sorry. Keep going.
All right. So again, we're just coming up on 1 hour, and the developers here have stayed up very late for us. So we definitely don't want to keep them overtime. Last week we grilled them for 2 hours. I want to mention again, you can go to multiple websites and YouTube channels, and you can download all that audio. So Oscar and Einar, I want to say thanks for all the time you put in and helping us, and all the bug reports that you've answered back and explained things. So that just helps us test the game even more thoroughly every time we find out like what your intentions are and what should work and how it should work. So the communication's been great. You guys are like outstanding when you reach out to the community, and you've been on the forums and you've answered other people's questions. I've been observing. So we're getting a lot of PMs right now on the chat channel saying thank you for your time. Again, last chance for anyone, unless if Oscar and Einar have something that they want to wrap up, they can do their exit speech at any point. Jaden, got a question? Go ahead.
It's not really a question so much as I just wanted to say, for an alpha, this is absolutely amazing. And I'm pretty sure everyone in this channel is going to agree with me. I've never seen an alpha, and to be quite honest, the bugs that I have, experienced with Maxim when we were doing our little playtesting, they weren't really groundbreaking. Being able to beat your sub. I mean, it's an alpha. We went 30 knots at a surface, and we managed to slide up a little bit. But to be quite honest, the state that it's in, it almost feels like a late beta. I just want to say, absolutely fantastic work. This really sort of puts life back into the SUBSIM genre. I think everyone's looking forward to that. I think.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to hear. Great to hear. We are. That's what makes it worth doing. Like, thank you so much.
Okay, so I guess that'll kind of wrap it up for tonight, unless Oscar and Einar decide to volunteer for any additional comments. One question, if you could, real quickly, do you have any other favorite TeamSpeak servers where you're doing some sort of a hosting and recording? Just wanted to throw it out there. What kind of or could you possibly tell us in general how many people have downloaded your game, and do you have sort of statistics on that? How popular things are going?
It's a bit hard. It's hard to tell, I guess. Oscar, have you any thoughts on that?
No, I mean we haven't. We don't have a counter or something that tells us how many people have downloaded the game. So I actually have no idea how many has done it.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Admiral,
sure.
Go ahead.
To join the game multiplayer, you have to put in IP. So how do I find those?
Well, first, you have to ask the person that you're joining what their IP address is, and also it's this will be a long answer. Basically, currently you have to be in the same network, or you'd have to, like, if they're behind the router, you can't really connect directly to them because of the way the network works, and that's why I'm rewriting the netcode currently to make it work on Steam. So basically, when the Steam version gets up, we won't have to deal with IP addresses anymore. You could just have like a friends list and then connect directly to them without like knowing all this stuff.
So again, for those people who didn't know, we are using a program called evolvehq.com. If you have a friend on that list, that's a sort of a internet chat and local area network VPN, virtual private network program. It allows you to hook up to other people, and in most cases, it's working. For the rest of you, if you want to set up your router differently, you can talk to me afterwards. I'll show you how to do it. I'm hosting games just by opening up my router. So this is still an alpha stage product. And again, once it goes Steam, it'll be through the Steam matchmaking or internet code working. It'll be working the way Steam does it. So at this point in time, you just visit the subsim.com forums. You post a message, tell people that you're interested in playing, see if you can set up a time on TeamSpeak and meet up with them. So again, it's early stages. It's difficult to find a lot of other people, but definitely spread the word. Tell all your friends about it. Do any promotion you can on any game review websites that you know about. So I just had a few more PMs, and yeah, we do have some posts in the forums right now that describe all the answers to the current networking issues. All right, so I guess that wraps it up for this SUBSIM team dev chat host situation. The developers again very, very gracious for coming out here tonight and giving us their inside view of their company and their product. I'd like to let everyone know that we're going to be hosting a few games after this session ends. If anyone wants to stick around and see a little multiplayer working, we'll help you out with those issues as well. So we're saying good night. We're logging off. We'll stop the recording here.
Yeah, good night to everyone, and thank you so much for showing up and talking to us, giving us feedback and everything. We really appreciate it. And well, hopefully we hear from you soon again. Good night.
Oh, one thing I wanted to say,
everyone.
like unofficial,
Night.
before the devs hopped off quick. I wanted to say something. Let me just swap over from push to talk here because that's really awkward. I have to hold this button down.
Okay, go quick, Jaden.
Yes, very quick. Okay, we go. So I was thinking, you guys, you devs need an official sort of official theme song, and I have the perfect song. Here it is. If I have my